Good afternoon. Welcome to a special edition of Faith, Family, and Political Affairs. There's so much going on in the world right now. I felt like I should check in with you. It's been a while. And there's some important things going on that I wanted to just make you aware of. Um, Number one, I wanted to invite you to tune in on Monday if you have time, January 20th at noon. We're going to be focusing on the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. This is the federal holiday, of course, that happens every year. It just happens that this year it happens on the day of the presidential inauguration. Um, so there are many people around the country who are still focusing on the King Day celebration, and our forum will be one that will be doing that. We plan to be playing some of Dr. King's most famous, most favorite speeches. Um, his last speech of his life was I've been to the mountaintop. We plan to play that one among many others. Of course, the I Have a Dream speech is the iconic speech that everyone knows. We'll be playing that. Also, some of the freedom songs and some of the history on not just Dr. King, but some of those who worked alongside of him. Uh, Dr. Young, Andrew Young, Ralph Abernathy, of course, our Reverend Jesse Jackson was a major part of the movement as well. So, and Coretta Scott King, we cannot forget his wife, who was always by his side. Doing the marches and strategizing on the movement and all of that. So we plan to try to be inclusive and focus on some of that history. We will also branch out and show and talk about some of the history of that time to try to add some context. We'll talk about the Kennedy administration. Many people think that, had there been another president at that time, the civil rights movement may not even have been as successful as it was. Um, because the Kennedys were at least open to the idea of racial integration throughout the nation and often sent National Guard and other law enforcement to accompany people who were integrating schools in very dangerous situations. Um, so we know that we plan to be inclusive in terms of presenting the context of the time. We'll be talking about the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church. I know you remember that in Georgia, and where the four little girls were killed. That was a thing in that time. When the racists were not able to get to King or to some of the other leaders of the movement, they would bomb churches, they would bomb homes. It was just a very violent time. And we won't belabor that piece of it, but we will put some context to it because certainly we liked on the King holiday to celebrate his life and his commitment to service and his legacy of service. The King family has promoted each year um, that the celebration comes around. It is a time to serve, to go out and serve in your community or beyond, but not just to, commemorate his life in words, but also in deed. So we want to invite you and encourage you to please stop in to our forum. And I'm going to have my plan is to open it up. And if someone wants to talk about their feelings about the time, their feelings about Dr. King and the legacy, the voting rights movement. If you have some special knowledge of any of that or some special feelings about that, I am going to open the forum up for people to share their thoughts. And I'm going to say that it's going to go probably 1 to 2 hours, but as long as we have people showing up and participating, we will keep the forum open. But we will start at noon, and we will start with some of his speeches, um, and some of his sermons as well. Okay, so that's that piece. Now, as fate would have it, of course, I've said this, um, Monday is also Inauguration Day. And we won't belabor that. We know that the new administration comes in, and this time there will not be any insurrection. Um, there will be the peaceful transfer of power that our country has been accustomed to up until, of course, last uh, election season in 2021. We had on January 6th, we had, of course, the infamous insurrection. And so to that, we just say, I've been playing on my page, I've been offering up these 20, I call them the 20 days of prayer, leading up to Inauguration Day. It does not look like there'll be any violence, because the losing side, has accepted, the election. There has been no challenges, no claims that the election was rigged or anything like that. Um, you know, the Biden-Harris campaign, um, administration, I'm sorry, the administration has accepted the outcome. Of course, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were the presidential and vice presidential candidates on the Democratic side, and they have accepted the outcome of the election. No threats of violence or anything have even, been discussed. And so we expect that Monday will be a day of the peaceful transfer of power that we are all used to seeing. Uh, of course, you can check YouTube. I'm not sure of the time that all those events will begin, but of course, all the major networks will be carrying that. And if you're like me, I stream a lot of my news on YouTube, so you can certainly find any of that information on that platform. Um, Recent development, I just heard this news today. Did you know I am always paying special attention to the news? Um, that our former First Lady, Michelle Obama, has decided that she will not be attending the Trump inauguration. And there's a lot of speculation as to why. Of course, she did not receive, and her husband's administration did not always receive the respect that they were due uh, from Trump and or his administration. And so it is not surprising that she would sit this one out. Um, of course, as a former president, her husband most likely will be there. But that's a major news event that was just announced today. Because as a former first lady, they usually do what, their duty calls them to do. But as Michelle Obama has always been a trendsetter, she and has always walked the walk too, and instead of just talking the talk, she is a woman of conscience, and no doubt she has her own feelings for why she doesn't want to be in that forum on that day. And I don't think there's anybody in the country who would question her decision. Um, and in my humble opinion, I think she is well within her right. I know at the recent homegoing service for former President Jimmy Carter, um, she was not present. Um, but she and her husband were very dear friends of the Carters. Um, so there was no announcement made about that. But I can say that President Obama seemed to be chatting fairly well with Donald Trump. He sat right next to him in the chapel, the funeral chapel, the cathedral. And it was a beautiful service. And I noticed that Mike Pence stood up and shook his hand, but Mike Pence's wife did not make any effort toward Trump or his wife. Because if you'll remember that Donald Trump, well, had her husband's life threatened by his the insurrectionists that he proudly led and encouraged. He wasn't there physically leading them, but he was certainly on his microphones every chance that he got, encouraging them and encouraging Pence to basically ignore the Constitution and deny the outcome of the election, which of course Vice President Pence at the time did not do. And so even though Pence's wife was there sitting beside him in the cathedral for the Carter service, she made no effort to shake Trump's hand or his wife's hand. And I think these first ladies have every right to their own, opinions and own positions. They stand up and do their duties, 99.9% of the time. And if they are women of conscience, and they are, they have a right to to make their own decisions about these kinds of things. And so I applaud Michelle Obama for being, as she always is, a woman of conscience, as I said. So um, let's see. The other thing is, of course, before the new um, administration comes in on Monday, we have the formal farewell of Joseph R. Biden tomorrow. He will be delivering his farewell address to the nation. Of course, all of the major networks will be carrying that. And I think he's been one of the finest presidents, certainly in my lifetime. I think that, he came in after Trump had pretty much divided the nation with all the racial rhetoric, that march through Charlottesville with those guys carrying the torches, talking about blood and soil. And, all of the racial tension was just heating up under Trump. And, George Floyd, and he even threatened that, it has been reported since he left office that he was even trying to get the military to shoot into the marchers, the protest marches. He had even asked if he could legally do that. And of course, he could not. Our laws at that time still held. Um, but who knows what in the second Trump administration, now that he's got the Supreme Court pretty much on his side, voting, um, every opportunity they get to allow him to do pretty much as he pleases. So we don't know what a second term will look like for protest marches. We don't know if he would call out troops and to go into protest marches. But we're going to, as I always say, we're going to be in prayer about that because there is a higher power, beyond the presidency, even of the United States. Although, that office is often billed as, the most powerful person in the world. Those of us who believe in a higher power know that even that office, has someone above it, should they get too much out of hand. Um, and that's why that leads to um my other piece. Um, if you happen to be on my Facebook page, I am also running um an abbreviated version of the 30 days of prayer that I ran leading up to the presidential election. And some of my friends and former colleagues who know that I was, in, wholeheartedly support of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz's ticket, they say to me, you prayed all the way up until the event, and your candidate did not prevail. And so why are you reviving the prayer piece? Um, but it's just, to me, it's similar to my feelings about the democracy. You don't just believe in God when everything goes your way. And you don't just believe in the democracy when the vote goes your way. You have to believe in God through the tough times when things aren't going your way, when things are absolutely turned opposite from the way that you would go. And it's called faith, you know, that verse. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So sometimes we keep it moving without seeing, the progress or the position or the thing that we want to happen. But we keep it moving and we keep believing. And without fail, God always shows up, and as my girlfriend says, shows out if we just keep believing. So and I believe that about our democracy. I was very disappointed at the outcome of the election. Everybody who knows me knows that. But I still believe in our democracy. I don't agree with the way it's going right now. I totally don't believe in the way it's going right now. I think it's a time of too much division, um, by race, too much division by status and wealth and class. Um, I think there's too much uncivility. I think people are just, reveling in name calling and just having a good time, just being not nice to one another. And you know how they say, this thing goes down from the head up. And if you have a leader who feels that it's okay to call people out of their names, to pit people against one another, then he always has followers who will behave in the same way. I think that's why I'm running the prayers again. It's an abbreviated version. Of course, they come from a pastor friend of mine in my hometown of Washington, North Carolina, Reverend Aaron Lewis. I have mentioned him and his wife Angie several times. They compiled these prayers initially for the lead up to the election, and they were so kind to allow me to use them. I just think the focus of them is just awesome. It's scriptures, and then it's a focus suggestion for things for you to pray for, um, relative to the election, relative to leadership, relative to the direction that the country moves in. Um, and so I decided just for the first 20 days leading up to January 20th, the first 20 days of the year that I would run those prayers for those 20 days. And on the 20th of January on Monday will be, I'll run that last prayer. Um, for success of our nation. However, this new administration chooses to go. Okay, so yeah, President Biden, remember to kind of look out for his farewell speech tomorrow. I'm sure all the major networks will be carrying it, and I'm going to run some details about it tomorrow on my Facebook page and on my Instagram page. So check those out for the details if you're not sure where to look to tune into his farewell speech. Um, I think, personally that Kamala Harris did an excellent job in running her campaign. I think, of course, had the president decided to step out a little sooner, she may have had a little bit more time to reach more of the country. But we don't know now. We have to deal with the reality. We have to deal with things as they are, not as we wish they were. And so um, I think she has to be commended for an incredible campaign. But then, even after that, she had to preside as the vice president. She had to preside over the certification of the votes, just as Mike Pence had to do when he faced the insurrection. But of course, she had to stand there as the former candidate against Trump to certify his victory. And she was a real trooper to do that. I think it takes a special kind of person, a special character. Um, Much like I said about Michelle Obama, this is a woman of conscience. Okay, many, many times in our lives, we don't get to do everything we want to do. Sometimes just doing that thing that you are called to do, is what you do. And it doesn't always make you happy, and you may go behind the scenes and cry a little bit after you get it done. But the main thing is that you get it done. And she was powerful. She went through the whole all of the votes. Each state has to call out, how it voted and certify and everything. And she stood through the whole thing and she did it all. And the certification went smoothly. And she announced that Donald Trump had won and would become the next president. So it is a testament to her life. Her life has been a life of service to the country. Her life has been a life of uplifting and upholding the laws of the land. So, as she said after it was all over, this was my constitutional duty. Why wouldn't I do it? So, there are still people who believe in, doing what is right. Okay, so I think those are all the points that I wanted to mention. So I'll close out with this. So many people who I know, and then some people who I don't know, um, online are talking about wellness and our mental health right now because people are dealing with uncertainty. And some people are looking for special ways to self-care. And I just wanted to weigh in on that because sometimes we get so busy with our lives. People will tell me that I'll be on Facebook, I'll be working because I work online. And people will send me messages and I won't respond. And they'll say, "Why aren't you responding? Why aren't you responding?" And I say, "I'm actually working. I'm not on here playing today. I'll talk with you later." And so later they'll say, you're just too busy. And so this year I have made a resolution to not be so busy that I don't take care of Fran. And and I don't, respond to those people who will add to my life and I might add to their life. And I want to encourage you all to do the same. Take some time to be mindful of your own needs. You know, certainly most of us take care of the people who are around us. But if it might be for you going for a walk in the middle of the day, it might be for you going on a bike ride. It might be go to a movie, with your favorite person or alone. It might be going and walking through Bath and Body Works, which I love to do because I love those candles. They smell so good and those lotions. Okay. So, but whatever the thing is that gives you pleasure, take a moment. It might be getting into the scriptures, it might be listening to some good music, whatever it is that gives you pleasure, feeds your spirit, feeds into your soul. Take some time this year to do that. And understand that even though the politics can feel like it's right at your door, it's not. You can turn off the TV, you can turn off the, social media. When it feels like it's too much for you, hey, sign out. The people in like Trump, in your real life, do you know him? I don't. I've never met him. So don't let people who you don't really know disturb your peace. You know, um, keep it all in perspective. Cherish the people who are around you in your life. Love on those people. And it's okay to check into the national politics and stuff, but I put that stuff in God's hands when it gets too crazy. I always say for African Americans, when things get too crazy, for us, we go to church anyway. We're going to church and we're going to give it to God eventually anyway. So, and it might be the case with other cultures. I just speak from the culture, that I come out of. But I say that to say, find something that gives you comfort, that feeds your soul and feeds your spirit, so that you're not too bogged down by all of this stuff. And and just know that God is in control. The people in Washington, they flex their muscles and they make you think that they're in control of everything. But the truth is they are not. They control their space. And they can be brought to a halt, if they get too crazy. And God will give us all a moment of pause when and if He sees fit. Um, so I'm going to sign off with that again and encourage you to sign in, check in with us on Monday around noon, um, to our King Day celebration. And be prepared if you want to speak and have some words to say, be prepared to do that. Um, and also tomorrow, be tune into the Biden speech. Check on the California fires, and even if you're not able to, get the updates, send up a prayer for those people that they might get the supplies that they need, and that there will be no more loss, of life. Um, Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you and look forward to seeing you on Monday for the King Day celebration with faith, family, and political affairs. Thanks so much.